Hello, beautiful souls. Tonight's story will take you on a journey where hearts are tested and destinies collide. The journey starts now. The autumn rain drummed against the floor-to-ceiling windows of Celestial Heights, Manhattan's most exclusive rooftop restaurant. Gabriel Harrison sat at his usual corner table, the one with the perfect view of the entire dining room, pretending to read financial reports while his dark eyes followed one person, Amelia. Rose moved through the restaurant like poetry in motion. At 26, she had perfected the art of balancing multiple plates while maintaining grace under pressure. Her auburn hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail. Her black uniform couldn't hide the natural elegance in her movements. She treated every customer with the same warm smile. Whether they ordered the cheapest appetizer or the most expensive wine, Gabriel had been coming here every Thursday for 3 months, always requesting table 12, always ordering the same meal, always alone. What started as a business dinner location had become something entirely different the night he first saw Amelia handle a difficult customer with such patience and dignity that it left him speechless. Your usual, Mr. Harrison. Amelia approached his table with her notepad ready, though she already knew his order by heart. Please, Gabriel replied, his voice softer than usual. And how has your evening been? Amelia paused, surprised by the personal question. In 3 months, their interactions had never gone beyond polite service. Yeah, busy but good. The rain always brings more people inside. Gabriel studied her face, noticing the slight shadows under her green eyes, the way she shifted her weight from one foot to the other as if her feet hurt. You work here full-time? 6 days a week, Amelia answered honestly, then caught herself sharing too much with a customer. I should get your order started. As she walked away, Gabriel watched her stop at the service station to massage her lower back when she thought no one was looking. He knew nothing about her life beyond these Thursday evenings, but something about Amelia Rose had captured his attention in a way no woman ever had. 3 blocks away in a tiny studio apartment above a bakery, Amelia's real world waited. She climbed the narrow stairs at midnight, her feet aching from another double shift. The smell of fresh bread from below usually comforted her, but tonight she was too exhausted to notice. Grandmother, I'm home, she called softly, not wanting to wake Helen if she was sleeping. In here, sweetheart, came the gentle voice from the bedroom. Amelia found her 72-year-old grandmother sitting up in bed, working on a crossword puzzle by lamplight. Helen Rose had raised Amelia since she was 8, after her parents died in a car accident. Now, with Helen's arthritis worsening and medical bills mounting, Amelia worked 2 jobs to keep them afloat. How was your day, dear? Helen asked, patting the bed beside her. Amelia sat down carefully, trying not to disturb the medications lined up on the nightstand. Same as always. But I sold 2 small paintings at the coffee shop this week. Helen's eyes lit up. That's wonderful. You're so talented, Amelia. Your parents would be so proud. Amelia smiled, but her heart ached. The paintings had sold for $50 each, barely enough to cover Helen's prescription costs for the week. Her dream of becoming a full-time artist seemed more impossible each day. After Helen fell asleep, Amelia sat at her easel in the tiny living room trying to paint by the light of a single lamp. The canvas showed a city street scene, people rushing past without noticing the beauty around them. She painted when she could stay awake, usually just an hour or 2 before exhaustion took over. Tonight, though, she found herself painting dark eyes, the kind that seemed to see right through to her soul. She didn't realize she was painting Gabriel Harrison until she stepped back and saw his face looking back at her from the canvas. The following Thursday, Gabriel arrived at Celestial Heights earlier than usual. He had spent the week thinking about Amelia, wondering about her life beyond the restaurant. When she approached his table, he noticed she looked even more tired than the week before. The usual? She asked, but her smile seemed forced. Actually, Gabriel said, closing his laptop, could you recommend something different? I trust your taste. Amelia blinked in surprise. Oh, well, the chef's special tonight is sea bass with lemon herbs. It's really beautiful. Sounds perfect. And what would you order if you were dining here? The question caught her off guard. Me. I don't really dine at places like this. Gabriel leaned back in his chair, hypothetically. Despite herself, Amelia found his genuine interest disarming. Honestly, the butternut squash soup. It reminds me of something my grandmother used to make, and bring 2 bowls of soup and the sea bass. I hate eating alone. Amelia stared at him. Mr. Harrison, I can't eat with a customer. I could lose my job. When do you take your break? I don't really take breaks during the dinner rush. Gabriel pulled out his phone and made a quick call. Within minutes, the restaurant manager appeared at their table. Asked, Mr. Harrison, how can I help you? I'd like to invite Ms. Rose to join me for a quick meal during her break. I assume that can be arranged. The manager looked between Gabriel and Amelia, clearly recognizing that Gabriel was someone whose requests weren't denied. Of course, sir. Amelia, take 30 minutes. Sitting across from Gabriel Harrison felt surreal. Amelia had served him dozens of times, but now, sharing soup and conversation, she saw a different man. He asked about her life with genuine curiosity, and she found herself opening up despite her usual caution. Studied art in college, she admitted, but life had other plans. What kind of art? Paintings, mostly. Urban scenes, people, emotions, nothing fancy. Gabriel's eyes lit up with interest. I'd love to see your work sometime, Amelia laughed softly. They're not gallery quality, just something I do in my spare time. Art isn't about galleries. It's about passion, about seeing the world differently. The way he said it made Amelia look at him more carefully. You sound like you know something about art, Gabriel hesitated. I wanted to be an architect once before I inherited the family business. What stopped you? Responsibility. Expectations. The same things that stop most people from following their dreams. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, both recognizing something familiar in the other's story. Mr. Harrison, Amelia began. Please, Gabriel. Why are you being so kind to me? You don't know anything about me? Gabriel set down his spoon and looked directly into her eyes. I know you work 6 days a week and still treat every customer with respect. I know you have paint under your fingernails, which means you create beauty even when you're exhausted. I know you're taking care of someone you love because I see how you count every tip. How you save leftover bread from the kitchen. Amelia felt her cheeks burn. She didn't realize he'd been watching her so closely. I know, Gabriel continued quietly, that you're the first person in a very long time who's made me want to be honest about who I really am. The rest of Amelia's shift passed in a blur. Gabriel's words echoed in her mind as she served other tables. She found herself glancing at table 12 whenever she could. He remained until closing, working on his laptop, but looking up every time she passed by, as the restaurant emptied. Gabriel approached the service station, where Amelia was counting her tips. Can I drive you home? It's late. I take the subway. It's fine. I'd feel better knowing you got home safely, against her better judgment. Amelia accepted. Gabriel's car was a sleek black sedan with a driver, more luxury than she'd ever experienced. During the quiet ride to her neighborhood, she gave him directions while stealing glances at his profile and the city lights. This is it, she said as they stopped in front of the bakery. Gabriel looked at the modest building, understanding more about her life in that moment.
Amelia.
I meant what I said about seeing your art. Gabriel, you're being kind. But we live in completely different worlds. He turned to face her. Maybe that's exactly why we need each other. The words hung between them as Amelia got out of the car. She watched the sedan disappear into the night, her heart racing in a way that had nothing to do with her exhausting shift. Upstairs, as she checked on Helen and prepared for bed, Amelia couldn't shake the feeling that her carefully controlled life was about to change in ways she couldn't imagine. Gabriel Harrison wasn't just another customer anymore. He was becoming something much more dangerous, something that could either save her or destroy everything she'd worked so hard to protect. As she lay in bed, listening to the city sounds outside her window, Amelia didn't know that 3 stories below, Gabriel's car was still parked across the street. He sat in the back seat, looking up at her darkened window, wondering how a chance encounter in a restaurant had made him question everything he thought he wanted from life. For the first time in years, Gabriel Harrison was thinking about someone other than himself. And for the first time in her adult life, Amelia Rose was allowing herself to hope for something beyond mere survival. Neither of them slept well that night, both sensing that Thursday evenings at Celestial Heights would never be the same again. The following week brought an unexpected phone call that changed everything. Amelia was preparing for another Thursday shift when her phone rang with an unknown number. "Miss Rose, this is Patricia Wells from Harrison Enterprises. Mr. Harrison would like to schedule a meeting with you regarding a potential business opportunity." Amelia nearly dropped the phone. "I'm sorry. There must be some mistake." "No mistake. Are you available tomorrow afternoon at 2 o'clock? Mr. Harrison has a proposition he'd like to discuss." After hanging up, Amelia stared at her reflection in the bathroom mirror. What could Gabriel possibly want to discuss? The rational part of her mind screamed warnings, but her heart raced with curiosity. Helen noticed her granddaughter's distraction immediately. "You seem different today, dear. Something good happened?" "I'm not sure, grandmother. Someone wants to meet with me about my art." Helen's face brightened. "How wonderful. You see, I always said your talent would be recognized." The next afternoon, Amelia stood before the gleaming 40-story Harrison building in downtown Manhattan. She wore her only professional outfit, a navy dress she'd bought for college interviews years ago. The lobby was all marble and glass, filled with people in expensive suits who belonged in this world in ways she never would. Gabriel's office occupied the entire top floor with panoramic views of the city. When his assistant let her in, she found him standing by the windows, looking out at the urban landscape below. Amelia turned, and the intensity in his eyes made her breath catch. "Thank you for coming. Please, sit." She perched on the edge of a leather chair that probably cost more than her monthly rent. Gabriel sat across from her, suddenly looking uncertain, in a way that seemed foreign to his confident demeanor. "I have a proposition for you, and I need you to hear me out before you say no." Amelia's hands gripped the armrests. "I'm listening. I want to commission you as an artist. 20 paintings over the next 6 months. I'll pay you $200,000. The number hit her like a physical blow. "That's not possible. It's more than possible. I've made my career on recognizing value that others overlook." Gabriel leaned forward. "I saw the painting in the coffee shop window. The one of the woman waiting for the subway. It was extraordinary. You saw my work? I've been looking for it since our conversation. That piece showed more raw talent and emotional depth than half the installations and galleries across this city." He paused. "But there's a condition." Here it comes, Amelia thought. The catch. "I want you to quit your restaurant job. Focus entirely on your art. The money is in advance, but you need to dedicate yourself completely to this." Amelia stood abruptly. "Why are you doing this?" "We barely know each other." Gabriel rose as well, maintaining the distance between them. "Because I see what you could become if you weren't working yourself to death. Because your grandmother deserves to see you succeed before it's too late. Because sometimes the universe puts someone in your path and you'd be a fool not to pay attention." "And what do you get out of this, Gabriel? 20 paintings worth $200,000 to someone who could buy actual masterpieces?" Honesty. The word fell between them like a stone. "I get someone in my life who isn't trying to use me, who doesn't see dollar signs when they look at me. I get to help someone achieve their dream without destroying them in the process." Amelia's eyes narrowed. "Destroying them." Gabriel walked back to the window, his reflection ghostly against the city skyline. "My father built Harrison Enterprises by crushing anyone who stood in his way. He taught me that people are assets or obstacles, nothing more. Then he died of a heart attack at 58, alone in his office at midnight because he'd alienated everyone who ever cared about him." He turned back to face her. "I'm 34 years old, Amelia. I have more money than I could spend in 10 lifetimes, and I can't remember the last time I had a conversation that mattered. Until I met you." The vulnerability in his voice cracked something open inside her chest. "I don't need you to save me," she said softly. "I know. That's why I want to help you. There's a difference." Amelia moved to the window, standing beside him. Below, the city sprawled in every direction, full of lives and stories she'd never know. "What if I'm not good enough? What if I take your money and produce nothing worth having? Then we'll call it a very expensive friendship. Gabriel's lips curved into a slight smile. But you are good enough, Amelia. You just need someone to believe in you the way your grandmother does. She thought of Helen, taking her arthritis medication with trembling hands, of the bills stacked on their tiny kitchen table, of the paintings she'd abandoned half-finished because exhaustion won over inspiration. 6 months, she said finally. 20 paintings. But I have conditions too. Name them. I keep working at the restaurant 2 nights a week. I won't be completely dependent on you. And we tell Helen this is a legitimate commission, nothing more. Done, and Gabriel. She turned to meet his eyes. If this is some elaborate way to get me into your bed, you should know I'll paint you as the villain you're clearly trying not to be. He laughed, a genuine sound that transformed his face. If I wanted you in my bed, Amelia, I'd be honest about it. This is about your art. Everything else is just 2 people trying to figure out why they can't stop thinking about each other. The admission hung in the air between them, dangerous and thrilling. I should go, Amelia said, but she didn't move. Have dinner with me first. Not as artist and patron. As Gabriel and Amelia, that's a terrible idea, probably. She should say no. Should walk away from this man whose attention felt like standing too close to a fire. But when Gabriel extended his hand, she took it. They had dinner at a small Italian restaurant in the West Village, nothing like Celestial Heights. Gabriel ordered wine that cost more than Amelia's weekly salary. But he asked her about her parents, about the moment she fell in love with painting, about the city she'd lived in all her life, but had never really seen. Tell me about your father, Amelia said, as they shared tiramisu. Beyond the business, Gabriel's expression darkened. He was brilliant and brutal. He believed love was weakness, that attachment made you vulnerable. He proved it by driving away my mother when I was 12, and then dying without ever telling me he was proud of a single thing I'd accomplished. Did you love him? I don't know. I feared him. I respected him. But love? Gabriel shook his head. He didn't teach me how. Amelia reached across the table, covering his hand with hers. Then maybe it's time you learned. The touch sparked something electric between them. Gabriel turned his hand over, threading his fingers through hers. This is a bad idea, he said. You already said that? I'm saying it again because I don't trust myself around you. Because you make me want things I have no right to want. Amelia's pulse thundered in her ears. Like what? Like this. Gabriel leaned across the table and kissed her. It was gentle and desperate all at once, a kiss that tasted like wine and promises neither of them could keep. When they finally pulled apart, Amelia's entire world had tilted on its axis. We shouldn't, she whispered. I know. This will complicate everything, I know. Gabriel, I can't afford to lose this opportunity. My grandmother needs me. He cupped her face in his hand. Then we'll be careful. We'll keep business and whatever this is separate. I swear to you, Amelia, I will never use the commission as leverage. She wanted to believe him. Wanted to trust that a man like Gabriel Harrison could see her as more than a project or a conquest. Take me home, she said finally. In the car, they sat on opposite sides of the back seat, but the space between them felt charged with electricity. When they reached her building, Gabriel walked her to the door. I'll have the contracts drawn up. You can have your lawyer review them. I don't have a lawyer. Then I'll hire you one. Independent counsel, completely separate from my firm. Amelia looked up at him, this man who was rewriting her entire life in the span of days. Why do I feel like I'm making a deal with the devil? Gabriel's smile was sad. Because you're smarter than I give you credit for. I come from a world that destroys beautiful things, Amelia. I'm trying very hard not to destroy you. What if I'm stronger than you think? Then maybe you'll save me instead. He kissed her forehead and walked back to the car, leaving Amelia standing in the doorway with her heart pounding and her future suddenly, terrifyingly uncertain. Upstairs, Helen was asleep, but Amelia found an envelope had been slipped under their door. Inside was a check for $50,000 with a note in Gabriel's handwriting. Advance on the commission. Get your grandmother the care she needs. Amelia sank to the floor, the check trembling in her hands, and finally let herself cry. Cry for the impossible position she was in. for the feelings she was developing for a man who could ruin her, for the hope that maybe, just maybe, this would all work out. But in the back of her mind, a voice whispered a warning she couldn't ignore. Men like Gabriel Harrison didn't save people. They consumed them. 3 months passed in a blur of canvas and color. Amelia's tiny apartment transformed into a working studio, paid for by Gabriel, though he insisted it was part of the commission. Helen's health improved with proper medication and physical therapy. Amelia created art with a freedom she'd never known. And Gabriel visited her studio twice a week, always professional, always careful not to cross the lines they'd drawn. Except the lines kept blurring. It started with lingering glances, then accidental touches that lasted too long. Late-night phone calls where they talked about everything except what was building between them. Gabriel would stand behind her while she painted, close enough that she could feel his breath on her neck. And neither of them would acknowledge the tension crackling in the air. "This one's almost finished," Amelia said, stepping back from a canvas that showed the city at twilight, all shadows and secret lights. Gabriel studied it with the intensity he brought to everything. "You've captured something essential about this place. The loneliness of being surrounded by millions of people. Is that how you feel?" "Every day of my life. Until recently." The admission hung between them. They were alone in her studio. Helen at a doctor's appointment, the afternoon light painting everything gold. "Gabriel, we need to talk about what's happening here." "I know. This isn't just about the art anymore." "I know that too." Amelia set down her brush. "Then what are we doing? Why do you keep coming here when we both know this can't go anywhere?" Gabriel moved closer, his dark eyes searching her face. "Because I'm selfish. Because seeing you is the only thing that makes sense in my life. Because I'm falling for you, and I don't know how to stop. You can't fall for me. I'm an obligation. A project? You're the first real thing I've had in years." "Real?" Amelia laughed bitterly. "There's nothing real about this, Gabriel. You bought your way into my life. You're paying me to exist in your world. That's not fair, isn't it? What happens when the 6 months are up? When the commission is complete? Do you just disappear back to your world of board meetings and merger deals?" Gabriel grabbed her shoulders, his grip gentle but desperate. "I don't want to disappear. I want to be here, with you, in whatever way you'll let me. You don't know what you want. You're bored, and I'm convenient. Out. Don't do that. Don't diminish what this is, and tell me what it is, Gabriel. Because from where I'm standing, this is a fantasy that's going to end badly for one of us." "You're right." The agreement surprised her into silence. "You're right that this is complicated and messy and potentially destructive." Gabriel's hands slid down her arms. "But you're wrong that it isn't real. What I feel for you is the most real thing in my life." Before Amelia could respond, his phone rang. He glanced at the screen and his expression shifted to something cold and professional. "I have to take this. It's my board." She watched him step away, watched the transformation as Gabriel Harrison, the man, became Gabriel Harrison, the CEO. When he hung up, he wouldn't meet her eyes. "I have to go. There's a situation at the company, of course." He paused at the door. "Amelia, about what I said? Get it? You're right, this is complicated. Let's just focus on the paintings." No. Something flickered across his face, hurt or relief. She couldn't tell. Then he was gone, and Amelia was alone with her canvases and her doubts. That night, unable to sleep, she decided to research Gabriel more thoroughly. She'd deliberately avoided looking him up before, wanting to know the man rather than the myth. But now, sitting in front of her laptop at 2 in the morning, she typed his name into the search engine. The results made her stomach drop. There were the expected articles about Harrison Enterprises, about Gabriel's business acumen and ruthless negotiations. But there were other articles too, about a woman named Caroline Mitchell who dated Gabriel 3 years ago. A struggling photographer who'd received a generous grant from Harrison Enterprises right before they started dating. The grant had been revoked 6 months later when they broke up. Caroline's career never recovered. She'd disappeared from the art world entirely. Then there was Jessica Park, an interior designer Gabriel had commissioned for his penthouse. They'd had an affair. When it ended, so did the contract. Jessica had to declare bankruptcy. The pattern was clear and devastating. Gabriel Harrison didn't just date women. He found talented, struggling artists and creators, swept them up in his world, made them dependent on him, and then discarded them when he got bored. Amelia's hands shook as she read article after article, each one confirming her worst fears. The commission, the attention, the careful way he'd inserted himself into her life, it was all part of a pattern. She wasn't special. She was just his latest project. The worst part was the quotes from Gabriel in one interview. "I believe in investing in potential. Sometimes those investments pay off personally as well as professionally. It's about recognizing value and capitalizing on opportunities." She'd been so stupid, so desperate to believe that someone like Gabriel could genuinely care about someone like her. The next morning, Helen found her still at the laptop, tears streaming down her face. "Sweetheart, what's wrong?" "I made a mistake, grandmother. A terrible mistake." Helen sat beside her, reading the screen. Her face grew grave. "Oh, Amelia, I was falling for him. I actually thought he cared about me. Maybe he does. He has a pattern, grandmother. I'm just the latest in a long line of women he's used and thrown away." Helen was quiet for a long moment. "What are you going to do?" "Finish the commission. Keep my distance. Protect myself." But when Gabriel showed up at her studio that afternoon, all her resolve crumbled. "You lied to me," she said, before he could even close the door. "What are you talking about?" "Caroline Mitchell. Jessica Park. Should I keep going, or do you know exactly what I'm talking about?" Gabriel's face went pale. "Amelia, let me explain." "Explain what?" "That you have a pattern of finding struggling artists, dangling opportunity in front of them, starting a relationship, and then destroying them when you're done. That I'm just your latest investment? That's not what this is." "Then what is it, Gabriel?" "Because from where I'm standing, I'm just another name in a long line of women you've used. Those situations were different."
Ow.
"How were they different?" Gabriel ran his hand through his hair, frustrated. "Carolyn and I dated, yes. I helped her career, yes. But she became obsessed. She started showing up at my office unannounced, calling me dozens of times a day. I had to end it for both our sakes. The grant was from my foundation, not from me personally. When the board reviewed her conduct, they made the decision to revoke it. And Jessica was a mistake. We had an affair while she was working for me, which was wrong. When it ended, she tried to blackmail me. Threatened to go to the press with intimate photos unless I paid her. I refused and ended the contract. She's the one who leaked the story about bankruptcy to make me look bad." Amelia wanted to believe him. Wanted so desperately to trust that his version of events was the truth. "Why should I believe you?" "Because I'm standing here being honest with you about my past instead of running. Because I'm not asking you to trust me blindly. I'm asking you to give me a chance to prove I'm different with you. People don't change, Gabriel. Maybe not. But maybe I was never the person those articles made me out to be." Took a step closer. "You want the truth? Here it is. I'm scared. Terrified, actually. Because what I feel for you is bigger than anything I felt for Caroline or Jessica or anyone else. You've gotten under my skin in a way I can't control, and that makes me dangerous. To yourself or to me. Maybe both." Amelia sank onto her stool, exhausted. "I don't know if I can do this. I have too much to lose." Gabriel knelt in front of her, taking her hands. "Then we'll go slower. We'll keep things professional until the commission is done. After that, when there's no money between us, no contracts, we can figure out if this is real and if I decide it isn't. If I decide you're too much of a risk, then I'll let you go. I'll honor the commission, make sure you're set up for success, and walk away." His voice cracked slightly. "But I'm hoping you won't make me do that." Amelia looked into his eyes, trying to see the truth. Trying to separate the man from the myth, the genuine emotion from the practiced charm. "3 more months?" she said finally. "We finish the commission. No more personal visits. No more phone calls about anything except the art. And at the end, we decide if there's something here worth exploring." "Agreed," And Gabriel, if you hurt me the way you hurt those other women, whether intentionally or not, I won't just walk away. I'll make sure everyone knows exactly what kind of man you really are. He smiled sadly. I'd expect nothing less. After he left, Amelia returned to her canvas, but her hands wouldn't stop shaking. She'd drawn her line in the sand, set her boundaries. Now, she just had to pray she had the strength to maintain them. Because despite everything she'd learned, despite all her warnings to herself, she was still falling for Gabriel Harrison, and that terrified her more than anything else. 2 months of careful distance felt like torture. Gabriel honored their agreement, communicating only through his assistant about the paintings. Amelia threw herself into her work, creating pieces that were raw and vulnerable, each one a window into emotions. She couldn't express any other way. She was finishing the 18th painting when Helen collapsed in the kitchen. The ambulance ride to the hospital passed in a blur. The doctors spoke in medical jargon that Amelia couldn't process. Advanced arthritis complications, infection in the joints, possible sepsis. They needed to operate immediately, but the surgery wasn't covered by Helen's basic insurance. The cost would be $75,000. Amelia sat in a sterile waiting room, fluorescent lights buzzing overhead, and did the math. She had $30,000 left from Gabriel's advance after months of rent, supplies, and Helen's previous medical bills. She was $45,000 short. Helen needed surgery within hours. She called Gabriel. He answered on the first ring. Amelia? What's wrong? The sound of his voice broke something inside her. I need help. My grandmother is in the hospital and I don't have enough money and I don't know what to do. Where are you? Mount Sinai. But Gabriel, I can't ask you for more money. I know how this looks. I'm 10 minutes away. Don't make any decisions until I get there. He arrived in 8 minutes, still wearing a suit from whatever meeting he'd left. When he walked into the waiting room, Amelia stood on instinct, and he pulled her into his arms without hesitation. Tell me everything, she explained through tears, hating how weak she sounded, hating that she needed him. When she finished, Gabriel didn't hesitate. I'll take care of it. All of it, no. I can't take more money from you. This isn't about the commission. This is about someone I care about who needs help. Gabriel, this will make me completely dependent on you. Don't you see? This is exactly what happened with those other women. He pulled back to look at her. This is different, and you know it. Your grandmother's life is at stake. Let me help. We'll figure out the rest later. Amelia wanted to refuse, wanted to maintain the boundaries they'd set. But Helen was dying, and pride was a luxury she couldn't afford. Okay, but I'll pay you back. Every cent, even if it takes years. We'll discuss terms later. Right now, let's make sure Helen gets the care she needs. Within an hour, Gabriel had arranged everything. The best surgeon, a private room, around-the-clock care. He stayed with Amelia through the 6-hour surgery, bringing her coffee, holding her hand, never once making her feel like a burden. When the surgeon finally emerged, exhausted but smiling, Amelia collapsed against Gabriel in relief. She's going to be okay. She's strong. That night, with Helen sleeping peacefully in her hospital room, Gabriel drove Amelia back to her apartment. She was too exhausted to protest when he insisted on coming upstairs to make sure she ate something. You didn't have to do this, she said as he heated soup on her small stove.
Yes.
I did, Gabriel. I can't keep taking from you. I feel like I'm drowning in debt and obligation. He set down the spoon and turned to face her. Is that really what you think this is? Obligation. I don't know what to think anymore. Every time I try to create distance, something happens that pulls me back in. Maybe that's because we're meant to be pulled together, Amelia laughed bitterly. Or maybe I'm just another in your pattern. The struggling artist who needs saving. Stop it. Stop using my past to build walls between us, and give me a reason to tear them down, Gabriel. Give me one good reason why I should trust you when everything in my life right now depends on your generosity. Because I love you. The words fell between them like a bomb. Amelia stared at him, certain she'd misheard. What? I love you, Amelia. I've been in love with you since that first night when you defended that difficult customer with such grace. I'm in love with your strength, your talent, the way you take care of Helen. the way you see beauty in things everyone else ignores. I'm in love with you, and I'm terrified because I don't know how to love anyone without destroying them. Amelia's heart hammered against her ribs. You can't love me. You barely know me. I know enough. I know you're the first person who's made me want to be better. The first person who's made me question everything I thought I knew about myself. Gabriel, this is the adrenaline talking. The emotion of the day. He crossed to her, cupping her face in his hands. This is me being more honest than I've ever been. I love you. And I think you feel something for me too, even though you're terrified to admit it. Of course I'm terrified. You hold all the power here. My career, my grandmother's health, everything depends on you. Then we end the commission. Right now. I'll pay you the remaining amount. We'll call it complete, and everything between us starts fresh. We still have 2 paintings left. I don't care about the paintings, Amelia. I care about you. She wanted to believe him. Wanted to fall into his arms and trust that this was real. But something held her back. Some instinct whispering that this was too good to be true. Kiss me, she said suddenly. What? If you love me, kiss me. Show me this is real and not just some elaborate manipulation. Gabriel didn't hesitate. He kissed her with a desperation that stole her breath, a kiss that tasted like months of restrained longing finally unleashed. Amelia kissed him back with equal hunger, pouring all her confusion and fear and hope into the connection between them. They stumbled to her bed, a tangle of limbs and gasped confessions. Gabriel worshipped her body like she was made of something precious. And Amelia let herself believe, just for one night, that fairy tales could come true for girls like her. Afterward, lying in the darkness with Gabriel's arms around her, Amelia felt the walls she'd built finally crumble. I love you too, she whispered. God help me, but I do. Gabriel tightened his hold on her. We'll figure this out. I promise. But promises, Amelia would learn, were easy to make and devastating to break. She woke alone. On her pillow, Gabriel had left a note. Had to handle something urgent at the office. Stay with Helen today. I'll see you tonight. Amelia showered and headed to the hospital, her body still humming with the memory of Gabriel's touch. Helen was awake and improving, asking questions about the handsome man who'd arranged everything. He's special, isn't he? Helen said knowingly, He is. I think I might actually have a future with him, grandmother, and hold on to that, sweetheart. Real love is rare. Amelia was heading back to her apartment that evening, planning what she'd say when Gabriel returned, when she passed a newsstand. The headline on the business section made her stop cold. Harrison Enterprises acquires Meridian Gallery chain in surprise deal. She bought the paper with shaking hands. The article detailed how Gabriel had been secretly negotiating the purchase of Meridian Gallery, one of the city's most prestigious art gallery chains, for the past 6 months. The deal had closed that morning, 6 months. The exact length of their commission, Amelia's blood turned to ice as she kept reading. The article mentioned that Gabriel planned to feature emerging artists he's personally invested in at the galleries. There was even a quote from Gabriel. I believe in recognizing untapped potential early. This acquisition allows me to showcase artists I've been cultivating. Like she was a crop to be harvested. She called him immediately. Amelia, I was just about to call you. When were you going to tell me? Silence. Then carefully tell you what? About the gallery acquisition? About how you've been planning this the entire time we've known each other. It's not what you think. Really? Because it looks like you found a struggling artist, commissioned her work, made her fall in love with you. And now you own the galleries where her work will be displayed. That's not a relationship, Gabriel. That's a business strategy. Let me explain, please. You knew about this deal when you first approached me. You saw an opportunity to lock in an artist before she got expensive. This was never about me or my talent. This was about you building your collection and your gallery holdings at the same time. That's not true. Yes, I was negotiating the acquisition, but my feelings for you are real. How can I believe anything you say? You've been lying to me for months. I didn't lie. I just didn't tell you everything. That's the same thing. Amelia's voice cracked. I trusted you. I gave you everything. And you've been playing chess with my life this whole time. Amelia, come to my office. Let me explain in person. No, I'm finishing the last 2 paintings. I'm fulfilling my contract, and then I never want to see you again. Don't do this. Don't throw away what we have because of a business deal. We have nothing, Gabriel. We never did. You made sure of that when you decided to treat me like an asset instead of a person. She hung up before he could respond. Her phone rang immediately, but she turned it off. Back at her apartment, she stood in front of her easel, staring at the 19th painting she'd nearly completed. It showed 2 figures reaching for each other across a canyon, their fingertips almost touching but never quite making contact. She'd painted it weeks ago, before any of this happened, but now it felt like prophecy. Amelia picked up her brush and painted over the reaching hands, turning them into fists. She would finish this commission, she would take Gabriel's money, and then she would build a career that had nothing to do with him. But as she painted through her tears, Amelia couldn't escape the truth. She'd fallen in love with a man who saw her as an investment, and that betrayal cut deeper than any rejection ever could. For 2 weeks, Amelia refused to see Gabriel. She finished the final paintings in a fury of grief and betrayal, pouring every ounce of her pain onto the canvas. The 19th showed a gilded cage with the door open but the bird still inside, too afraid to fly. The 20th depicted a reflection in shattered glass. The same face repeated in fragments that would never fit together again. They were the best work she'd ever created, and she hated them. Gabriel sent messages through his assistant. Flowers to the hospital. Letters she burned without reading. He didn't show up at her apartment, respecting at least that one boundary. But his absence hurt as much as his presence had. Helen recovered slowly, asking questions Amelia couldn't answer. Why had the kind man stopped visiting? What had happened to the light in her granddaughter's eyes? Sometimes people aren't who we think they are, was all Amelia could say. The contract stipulated a final meeting to deliver the paintings and receive the remaining payment. Amelia arrived at Harrison Enterprises on a gray November morning, the 2 canvases wrapped and ready. She'd dressed in black, like she was attending a funeral. In a way she was. Gabriel's assistant led her to a conference room, not his office. Professional distance, Amelia thought bitterly. How appropriate. But when the door opened, it wasn't just Gabriel waiting. Caroline Mitchell and Jessica Park sat at the conference table. Amelia froze. What is this? Please, Gabriel said from the head of the table. His face was haggard, like he hadn't slept in weeks. Sit down. You deserve to hear the truth. I don't want to hear anything from you. Then hear it from us, Caroline said. She looked older than her photos, but there was kindness in her eyes. Please, Amelia. 5 minutes. Against her better judgment, Amelia sat. Gabriel remained standing, his hands gripping the back of a chair. I asked Caroline and Jessica here because you need to understand what really happened. Not the version in the press. The truth. Caroline spoke first. Gabriel and I dated 3 years ago. It's true that Harrison Enterprises gave me a grant, but Gabriel didn't control that decision. His foundation has a board that operates independently. When I became obsessive after our breakup, when I started stalking him, they revoked the grant because my behavior violated the ethics clause. Gabriel actually fought to let me keep it. Amelia stared at her. The articles said he destroyed your career. I destroyed my own career. I had a breakdown and blamed Gabriel instead of getting the help I needed. I've been in therapy since then. I contacted him last month to apologize for the lies I told the press. Jessica cleared her throat. My story is worse. I did try to blackmail Gabriel. When he refused to pay, I was so angry that I sold a twisted version of what happened to anyone who would listen. The truth is, I initiated our affair. I seduced him specifically so I could use the relationship as leverage for more contracts. When he figured out what I was doing and ended things, I tried to ruin him. Why are you telling me this? Amelia asked, her voice hollow. Because Gabriel asked us to, Caroline said. When he learned what you'd read, he tracked us both down. He told us about you, about how the past was destroying his chance at real happiness. He asked if we'd be willing to tell you the truth, even though it means admitting things that make us look terrible. He said he'd rather lose you knowing you had the full story than keep you based on lies. even lies we told about him. Amelia turned to Gabriel. His dark eyes were filled with anguish. This doesn't change the gallery acquisition, she said. You still used me. You're right. I did. Gabriel moved around the table to face her directly. I saw an opportunity to discover an artist before the market did. But Amelia, that was before I knew you. Before I understood what you'd come to mean to me. By the time I realized I was falling in love with you, the deal was too far along to back out without destroying everything my company had worked toward. So you chose the company over me. No, I chose to tell you the truth. Even though I knew it would cost me you. I could have hidden the acquisition. Let you find out after the galleries launched. By then, you'd have been established enough that it wouldn't have mattered. But I couldn't live with that lie between us. Amelia felt tears threatening. You should have told me sooner. I was a coward. I was terrified that telling you would destroy what we had. So I waited, and in waiting, I betrayed your trust anyway. Gabriel sank into the chair beside her. I love you, Amelia. That was never part of any plan. But I understand if you can't forgive me. Caroline and Jessica quietly excused themselves. The door clicked shut, leaving Amelia and Gabriel alone with the ruins of what might have been. The paintings, Amelia said finally. The ones I just delivered. They're about you. About us, I know. Do you? Do you understand what you did to me? I let myself believe that someone like you could actually love someone like me. That I wasn't just another transaction. You were never a transaction. Then what was I, Gabriel? Your redemption arc? Your chance to prove you're not your father? The accusation hit him like a physical blow. Maybe at first. But you became so much more than that. Amelia stood, needing distance. She walked to the windows, looking out at the city where she'd spent her entire life. Feeling like a stranger in her own home. I have an offer, Gabriel said quietly. From the Ashford Gallery in London, completely separate from my holdings. They saw your work through an independent dealer and want to represent you. 3-year contract, full support, more money than I paid you. Your own show next spring? Amelia turned. You arranged that. I made a phone call. They made their own decision based on your talent. The offer is legitimate, Amelia. I'll put you in contact with them directly. I'll remove myself from the equation entirely. Why would you do that? Because I love you enough to let you go. Because you deserve a career that isn't tainted by our relationship. Because if I really care about you the way I claim to, I need to give you the freedom to choose your own path. It was exactly what she'd wanted to hear, and it broke her heart completely, the commission payment she managed. I need it for Helen's ongoing care, already transferred to your account, plus a bonus for delivering early. Gabriel pulled an envelope from his jacket, and this is a contract terminating any future obligation between us. You're free, Amelia. Completely free. She took the envelope with shaking hands. What about you? What do you get? The knowledge that I helped someone extraordinary achieve their dreams. That's more than I deserve. Amelia looked at this man who'd turned her life upside down. This man who'd been her salvation and her destruction. This man she'd loved despite every warning, every doubt. I don't forgive you, she said. Gabriel nodded, accepting the verdict. I understand. But I don't hate you either. And maybe that's worse. She moved toward the door, her future suddenly sprawling before her, full of possibility and empty of the one person she wanted to share it with. But then she stopped, her hand on the handle. Gabriel, yes, in 6 months, when I've established myself in London, when my success is my own and there's no debt between us, ask me to coffee. His head snapped up, hope flickering in his eyes. What? I'm not saying I'll say yes. I'm not saying I can ever fully trust you again. But maybe if we both do the work to become better versions of ourselves, there might be something worth exploring. Without contracts, without obligations, just to people, seeing if real love is possible. And if you say no to that coffee, then we'll both know we tried. That sometimes love isn't enough, but at least we were honest about it. Gabriel stood, crossing the room to stop just short of touching her. I'll wait as long as it takes. And if you never call, I'll understand that too. Don't wait for me, Gabriel. Live your life. Be the man you want to be, not because of me, but because of you. If we're meant to find our way back to each other, we will." She left before she could change her mind, before she could throw herself into his arms and forgive him before he'd earned it. The elevator ride down felt like descending from one world into another. Outside, the November air was sharp and clean. Amelia pulled out her phone and called the Ashford Gallery. She had a future to build and, for the first time, it was entirely her own. 6 months later, Amelia's show at the Ashford Gallery was the talk of London's art scene. Critics praised her raw emotional honesty, her technical skill, her unique perspective on urban loneliness. She sold every piece, was commissioned for a dozen more, finally felt like the artist she'd always dreamed of becoming. Helen had moved to London with her, thriving in a smaller city with better air. They had a flat in Camden, filled with light and laughter and the smell of oil paints. Amelia dated a musician for 2 months, a professor for 3. Neither relationship felt right, but she was learning what she wanted. What she deserved. She was in her studio, working on a new series about transformation. When her phone buzzed, with an unknown number, Amelia Rose. "Yes, this is the front desk. There's someone here asking for you." "A Gabriel Harrison?" Her heart stopped, then raced. 6 months and 2 days since she'd left New York. He'd waited the exact amount of time she'd asked for. Send him up. She had time to panic, to check her reflection, to wonder if she'd made a terrible mistake. Then there was a knock on her door. Gabriel looked different. Lighter somehow, like he'd shed a weight he'd been carrying. His suit was less severe, his expression more open. He held 2 cups of coffee and a cautious smile. "You said 6 months. I figured I'd give you a couple extra days, just to be sure." Amelia couldn't help but smile back. "Very considerate. I read about your show. Congratulations. The reviews were extraordinary. Thank you." They stood in awkward silence. 2 people who'd been intimate now, strangers again. Gabriel extended one of the coffee cups. "So, coffee." Amelia took the cup, their fingers brushing. The spark was still there, undeniable as ever. "Coffee," she agreed. "But Gabriel, if we do this, we do it right. Slow, honest, no games, no grand gestures, no using money to solve problems." "Agreed. Just 2 people getting to know each other. And if it doesn't work, then we'll have closure. Real closure this time." Amelia gestured to her small kitchen table. "Tell me about the last 6 months. Not the business accomplishments. The real stuff." They talked for 3 hours. Gabriel told her about starting therapy, about confronting his father's ghost, about learning that love wasn't weakness, but the greatest courage of all. Amelia shared her struggles with success, the imposter syndrome, the loneliness that fame couldn't fill. As the afternoon light faded into evening, they discovered something remarkable. Without the weight of obligation and debt, without the power imbalance and fear, they actually liked each other. The chemistry was still there, but now it was built on something more solid than desperation and need. "Can I see you again?" Gabriel asked as he prepared to leave. "Yes. But next time, I'm buying the coffee." Laughed. "Deal." At the door, he paused. "Amelia, I need you to know something. Whatever happens between us, I'm proud of you. Watching you succeed on your own terms has been the greatest privilege of my life, Gabriel. Yes. Thank you for letting me go. I think I needed to lose you to find myself. And now," she smiled, "now we see if we can find each other again." He left with a promise to call, and Amelia returned to her canvas. She painted through the night, lost in the flow of creation. This piece showed 2 figures standing on opposite sides of a bridge, walking toward the center. Not running, not hesitating. Just walking, with open eyes and hopeful hearts. She didn't know if she and Gabriel would make it. Didn't know if love could overcome their complicated history. But for the first time, she believed it was possible. Not because he'd saved her, and not because she'd saved him, but because they'd both saved themselves first. 3 months later, Gabriel Harrison and Amelia Rose had coffee once a week, dinner twice a month, and long phone conversations in between. They argued about art and philosophy, challenged each other's assumptions. and slowly built something neither had thought possible. Trust. A year after her London show, Amelia opened her second major exhibition. Gabriel attended the opening, bringing Helen in a wheelchair, but he stood in the back and let Amelia shine. After the crowds dispersed, after the champagne toasts and critic interviews, they found themselves alone in the gallery. "This piece," Gabriel said, stopping in front of a large canvas. "This is new." The painting showed two people dancing in the rain on a city street, their faces turned toward each other, vulnerable and alive. It was called The Choice. "Do you like it?" Amelia asked. "I love it. Is it us? It's who we could be. If we're brave enough." Gabriel turned to her, his dark eyes full of everything they'd survived and everything they might still become. "Amelia Rose, I've loved you since the moment I saw you balance for plates and a difficult customer with equal grace. I've loved you through my mistakes and your anger, through separation and rebuilding. I love you now, standing in your gallery, watching you be exactly who you were always meant to be. And I'll love you tomorrow and all the days after, if you'll let me." Amelia felt tears slip down her cheeks. That sounded rehearsed. "I've been practicing for 3 days." She laughed through her tears. "Gabriel Harrison, I love you too. Not because you're rich or connected or because you help me, but because you're flawed and honest and trying every day to be better than your past. So what do we do now?" Now, Amelia took his hand, threading her fingers through his. "Now, we choose each other. Every day, in all the small moments that matter more than grand gestures. We choose honesty over ego, vulnerability over armor, and love over fear." Gabriel pulled her close, and they stood together in the empty gallery, surrounded by her art, by the proof of her strength and his faith. When he kissed her, it felt like a beginning rather than a continuation. Outside, London hummed with life. Helen waited in the car, smiling to herself. And in a small studio apartment above a bakery in New York, a new struggling artist unpacked her supplies. Dreaming of a future where her talent might be recognized, the world kept turning. People kept struggling and succeeding, falling and rising. But in that gallery at that moment, two broken people had found a way to be whole together, not because love conquered all, but because they'd conquered themselves first. And that, Amelia thought, as she held the man she'd chosen to love again, made all the difference. Asterisk, don't forget to like this video if it touched your heart. Subscribe for more inspiring stories, and share to spread kindness. And comment below where you're watching from. The end.